Welcome to the All Things Real Estate Podcast with our very own Josh Barker. With more than 20 years of experience and over 5,000 properties sold, Josh brings a unique perspective to the real estate market. Let's get started.
Okay. It's June.
It's June.
2024, halfway through 2024.
Yep.
This is crazy, man. Time is,
Is it crazy that June comes after May? It's just blowing you away?
It's just crazy that like months are just like the calendars just flip. This is like a movie.
It is like
where
a
it's like
movie.
they just want to fast forward 12 months, so they shoot the angle on the camera and
Well, we're both 50 or close to it, and I say,
I'm over
time. Okay, I didn't want to have to confess that today, but the speed in which time goes by now is just unbelievable.
It is. It is, and a lot of stuff is going on right now in real estate. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on in the Reading market.
Yeah.
We're seeing inventory has changed a lot, like in the last, 45 days?
Yeah, we had a big jump. I mean, a couple months ago, it was about 30% lower than it is today. We're sitting around 650, 660 on the market today for homes that are for sale, and it's plateaued, though. I mean, that rate of acceleration in inventory was exciting to watch. We were kind of hoping it would continue to do that just for our buying side of our clients because they obviously need homes, but it's starting to plateau out again, the inventory.
Well, I mean, every year, usually spring is the bring your home to market, right? So what we're talking about, March, April, May is your big three?
Yeah, I would say mid-March, it starts picking up, and then it's pretty consistent all the way through the end of June.
Okay.
Where inventory is coming to market at a higher rate than it does any other time of year. And it started off that way this year too. It was really exciting to see, but like I said, it's starting to stall a little bit. The inventory is not growing, and our sales aren't really off the charts either. We never really got our spring rush this year.
Well, interest rates are what are interest rates right now?
Interest rates are sitting around 7.25%. So that kind of does serve as a wet blanket to the overall market right now for sure.
You know, it's funny. I hear people. These are like the same kind of meme type statements are made over and over. Because when I bought my first house in 2001, my interest rate was 7.25%, oddly enough. And at the time, I didn't think it was bad or good. But the first house we bought in Reading, I think we paid $112,000, and my salary was $60,000. That's the other thing. Like my house cost less than 2 years a salary. So 7.25% was doable. Now, I mean, the average salary in Reading right now is what, like mid-50s, would you say? Low 60s, something like that?
I think right now it's about 3 times salary for a combined family.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say it was higher than that.
No, I mean, in the side of the city of Reading right now, I think that the average probably between a husband and wife working or, two-person household working, you probably have somewhere around $100,000 in combined income. Mm-hmm. And that person probably owns a home maybe around $300,000. So it's about 3 times now. But to your point, I mean, it used to be 2.
It's still, that's more than, and it may not seem like a lot, but that whole one, that's a lot.
Yeah. And our absorption rate has actually climbed too. I mean, right now we're sitting at about 3.5 months supply of homes for sale.
Which is
well, for our listeners, it's 0 to 3 months. Traditionally, it's considered to be what we call a seller's market, meaning they have more of the advantage in the market. And then 4 to 5 months supply is normally what we call a neutral market. Nobody has the advantage. And then 6 months or more is what we consider to be a buyer's market, where again, the buyer has the advantage. And we're sitting around 3.5, so very, very tail end of a seller's market. But I say that in a general term because it's really dependent on price range too. Mm-hmm. If you get into the upper end, it's a buyer's market.
Yeah, totally.
And as you come down, it starts to swing that pendulum a little bit more and more towards a seller's market.
Well, it's just like those projections on the appreciation rate on housing. Mm-hmm. It always leans heavy towards the lower end of the market. The upper end of the market doesn't usually see that 7%,
That's
8% increase. But the houses at 300, they're going to go up 7%.
That's right.
Yeah. And so, I mean, markets, that's another thing. It's kind of like we've talked about it before. When people talk in real estate, everything's so generalized. Mm-hmm. The national market, Austin, Texas is not Redding, California.
That's right.
$350,000 houses are not $950,000 houses. So markets and segments. And I still think, Redding, you don't have any inventory replacement. There's no building going on.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, we hear, and it's a fair argument or a fair question to ask, I suppose, but I mean, buyers out there in today's market are thinking, gosh, well, we'll just wait for the market to go down. I'm like, okay, well, what has to take place in the market in order for the market to go down? And, usually it would have to start from a supply side. You'd have to increase the inventory relative to demand. It has to increase faster than the demand increases. In order for you to have prices to the point where they start to go down significantly, or at least to the way that people are hoping, very unlikely. Even if you look at the foreclosure market right now, in the country, I think it's around 40% of all people own their homes free and clear.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a pretty high number.
That is a very high number.
Yeah. And then if you get into how many of them in the country are actually in some form of foreclosure or foreclose, it's only 1/4%. So there's not really historically a lot of foreclosure activity anyway. And right now, we think that it's likely that maybe anybody that bought a home in the last 2 years and didn't put a lot of money down, they're not sitting on a lot of equity. And so that would probably be, let's say, about 4,800 or so homes sold in the last 2 years. And then you've got maybe, let's say, 40% of those had large down payments, 60% didn't. Mm-hmm. So you're probably sitting somewhere around 3,000 properties right now out of 48,000 that have little equity. That's not a huge deal.
No.
And when you look at the foreclosure market right now, there's only 199 properties in the entire county that are in some form of foreclosure. And the reality is that if maybe 25% of those will ever even hit the market, which would mean like 50 of them, right? And it wouldn't all hit at once. That'd be spread out over the course of a year, which means you're probably looking at 4 per month. And if you look right now online at homes and foreclosures, that's about what you're going to see. So it's just not the foreclosure side of it is not going to create inventory for us. What's more likely to happen, and did you watch the Feds this week?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Well, the Federal Reserve came out this week, and when they came out, they said that inflation month over month was 0. And they're excited about that. And they're going to want to see that for another couple of months. And then after that, I think you're going to have some confidence to at least cut the rate. And most experts right now are projecting interest rates to be cut at least once this year now, between now and the end of the year, likely at the end of the year. But here's what's really interesting. If you listen to what some of these experts are saying right now going into next year, they think that the economy is actually going to cool down. They think inflation is going to cool down. Now we're starting to hear talks of up to 1.25% interest rate reduction in 2025. And so if rates right now are, let's say, roughly 7.25%, we might be in the high fives by the end of 2005 or 2025.
This is why we've been saying you marry the house and you date the interest rate.
That's right.
You date the loan, because when that happens, prices in Reading should track inversely to interest rate. So as the interest rate goes down, that pricing is going to start going up because more people are going to be able to buy. And we've already said, we don't have a system in place here to replace inventory. We don't, I don't know if you know the latest numbers, but they're builder permits, being pulled for buildings, but it's tiny. It's fractional.
Yeah.
Now that could swing fast, I guess, but even if it does, it takes a while. Like if a bunch of permits were pulled today, you're not going to see inventory for over a year.
That's right.
It's going to take a while.
Yeah.
The markets that people have looked at and said like, oh, look at these markets that you're seeing reductions. That's what happened. Austin, Boise, where there was just a ton of new building and they overbuilt. Mm-hmm. But that's not here.
No.
Yeah.
No, and it's interesting. Yeah, you're right. Think Texas has a lower housing regulation, Idaho, lower housing regulation, Nashville, Tennessee, Florida. And it's no wonder why they're receiving so many, people moving to those areas right now. It's because of that, there's enough homes there at affordable prices that it's drawing in a lot of people. California has a very challenging home building policy. And they can argue about it all they want, but the reality is, and the proof is in the fact, we don't build a lot of homes.
Yeah.
So City of Reading through April had 30 permits pulled last year, 7 through April. You go back a year before that, it was 70.
Yeah.
So, that is a huge change.
Huge.
And we need a lot more homes for us to really replenish the housing supply now. So I'm very optimistic about home appreciation going forward. It's just, there's no other way to solve this. As rates go down, we're going to see home values likely moving up, and then that'll give room for home builders to build and actually be able to offer a product to the market at the prices in which they need them to be for them to make some kind of a meaningful profit.
Yeah, I think about how much it would cost to bring a house to market in Reading. I can't imagine that you can build a house and take it to market for under $400,000. How could you
Well, DR Horton right now, and then we're representing them on some properties currently, and we have stuff that's in the low mid fours, and I think, and that's really them doing everything they can to provide an affordable product to the market.
And they are such a massive builder; they have economies of scale.
Oh, they sure
So the
do.
average builder isn't going to be able to match them. I mean, they build. I can't remember how many thousands of homes a year across the United States. They own their supply chain. They don't go down to Home Depot and get screws. They own their entire supply chain. So
That's right.
Yeah, they should be able to undercut everybody's price.
Yeah,
from how big they are.
Their core efficiencies across the line are hard to match, and the product actually is a really good product for what you're getting. I mean, for that price, what they're offering, I mean, these houses are great. The challenge will be, again, we need more home appreciation in the market to give some room to builders for them to actually be able to start building homes at some meaningful level and help to increase the housing supply.
And that'll probably come when interest rates go down.
Oh yeah. As interest rates go down, it's going to definitely add to that. And, and there'll be more participation on the existing home market side too. So as the rates come down, sellers that might have already wanted to move for various reasons, as the rates come down, it gives them room to be able to sell and then buy the next home and be willing to accept that rate that might be in the high fives by the end of next year. So we're going to start to see some activity. I think 2025 is likely to be a better year than 2024 in relationship to the volume of homes that are selling.
And so when we talk about the volume of homes, I don't know if you know any of these numbers, but like how is it compared to, say, this time last year?
Oh, yeah, we're down by roughly 15 to 20% volume-wise.
I thought it was going to be bigger than that, honestly. I thought you were going to say
the year before that was 15 to 20 also, though. And the year before that was. So we're down roughly 40%. So if you go back to 2021, we had roughly 325 to 350 homes selling in a month. In this last month that we just had, we had 189 to 210.
Wow.
Yeah, so significant reduction in the volume. Which is making it interesting in the industry. We're watching real estate offices here locally are shutting down. Mm-hmm. They're beginning to consolidate. Cloud-based brokerage seems to be, if I have a real estate office with a bunch of agents and I don't want to have an office anymore, I shut my doors and then my agents go join a cloud-based brokerage somewhere, which, unfortunately, that's kind of where the industry is going right now.
We've seen a lot of changes in the industry. I mean, we've got the NAR settlement, the DOJ is involved, and just interest rates. There's just a lot of flux and change in real estate in general. And as such, you've been pivoting the company because, I mean, you're steering the ship. Yep. You've made some big changes here at Josh Barker Real Estate.
We have. I mean, it's been some really tough changes, really heartfelt, what's the direction we want to go? You and I talked about this, about, the advent of that cloud-based brokerage and how companies were collapsing in, closing down and joining cloud-based brokerage. And I'm seeing how a lot of agents are gravitating that direction. And, I've had all of those companies come to me trying to get us to do that. Mm-hmm. And then I was evaluating where I thought the customer would want, and I look at what the customers that I've worked with, and I can't speak for everybody's clients, but for the clients that we really work well with, they're looking for a consultative approach. They're really looking for a company that knows their stuff, that is really, entrenched in getting better all the time. And so knowing that that's not everybody's forte, we got really clear on who we were. And so, we've made some decisions to not grow the company going forward. We made the decision that I was going to step back into production personally and kind of, in a way, kind of pivot back towards what we were before I had actually taken that year and a half off. And, me being actively involved in the business, and then the agents that I'm working with, I'm actively involved in what their business looks like. And, if you will, micromanaging, and being really close to all the customers in our company. And that's not a good fit for all of our company, because some of our agents want to do their own thing, and we totally appreciate that. But for us, that's who we really are. And I had to be truthful with myself. My wife and I talked through, and we're like, you know what, we felt better about the company in that environment than growing it and doing these, having a 100-man office or whatever. We want to be a good company that really, we just like how we're running it.
I've been working with you for some time, and one of the things I've seen is that you have a very high quality assurance. I mean, the mechanisms that you put in place, you're in this, which I don't see often. You don't see it a lot in business, but you don't see it a lot in real estate, or at least I haven't seen it, where there's a lot of mechanisms built into quality assurance and everything is very customer centric. Very, very customer value focused. Yep. It's not just lip service.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like the beginning of any good, business book,
Sure.
But the truth is, and I remember when you and I first started working together, you made certain statements and I thought, oh, okay, he's quoting, this book and he's quoting that book. But then as I watched, no, that's really how it's done.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, if you'll provide better value to the marketplace, you will do better. If you put the customer first, and everything revolves around that, then your service will be superior to the people who are all about the dollar.
Right.
And so that's kind of what I'm hearing is we've seen industry change. And there's big industry changes, both like from a legal standpoint. Like we said, I keep coming back to NAR, DOJ, because I think it's huge. And we still haven't seen the extent because like we said, it kicks in August. But also just inventory changes, interest rate changes, our economy changing. Real estate's a lot different in the summer of 2024 than it was summer of 2020, which it seems like yesterday.
I know.
It seems like yesterday.
And it's night and day difference. It's a total night and day difference. And in a lot of ways, it feels like we're going back to what we were probably in the 2010 to 2017 kind of range. That's what this feels like for me. And it's we'll see how things go, but I'm just confident that we were very successful running the company a particular way in the past. And we know that even though we're, by far outselling all of our competitors right now, I'm not proud necessarily of that. I would be much more proud just knowing that, we're really paying close attention to just serving our clients and each transaction and each deal, making sure that we did the best we could going through it.
And I think companies that approach it that way, as we go through this transition, as we see what the next 12 months and how things shake out in the industry, I think the companies that put their emphasis on their customers, they're going to see success. I think the companies that are constantly looking to cut expense, which just, I don't know, we were talking about how this started in America where everything stopped from production and growth to optimization and trimming and outsourcing and trimming and outsourcing and trimming. And to me, it brought a cheaper, inferior product or service to the market. And I think that's what a lot of people are complaining about today.
I think so too. And I mean, the verdict will be out. We don't know which way or which model, if you will win. But I will tell you one thing. I'm going to sleep really good at night knowing that we're doing it the way we're doing it.
Yeah, so I think that's a good transition to talk about the NAR. I mean, we've talked about the NAR settlement, which I think kicks in July. And there's been no...
August.
August. Yeah. Oh, okay. So they kicked it back a month, right? It was going to be July, wasn't it?
Yeah, there was something about several months ago something wasn't filed or approved at a certain point, but now it's mid-August.
But so the NAR, which is a what do you call it? A professional
trade organization.
Yeah, trade organ. Thank you, trade. It's not the government. NAR is a trade organization, right? So they said, okay, look, we're going to make some changes, but now the Department of Justice, this is going a step up. The government's getting involved, right?
Yeah. So. It's kind of interesting, but you touched on it. National Association of Realtors is a trade organization, and it's actually really good. I mean, it offers a lot of things. People listening to this wouldn't understand this part very much because you don't see it every day, but they're probably one of the largest advocates for home ownership rights in the country. And they spend a ton of money and time legislatively lobbying and everything else to protect homeowner rights. So I just want everybody to know NAR, National Association of Realtors, is a big deal.
Yeah, it is huge.
In order for me to be a realtor, I have to be a member of NAR.
To use the term realtor, it's trademark.
That's right. And
otherwise, you're a real estate agent.
Exactly right. And in California, we have what's called CAR, which is just a subsidiary of NAR. It's California Association of Realtors. And so when NAR got sued, they had that settlement. Two big rules came out of it. One rule is that they're going to require an agent to sign a buyer-broker agreement with their buyers prior to showing a home, which is great because it's going to memorialize a relationship. It's going to, basically say, hey, Joey, before I go out and look at this home today, I want to talk to you about what our scope of services are going to look like. I want to talk to you about how we get paid, and I want to talk about how long this relationship will last, right?
Yep.
And so no different than if you hired an attorney or hired a CPA for financial advisor, you have an engagement letter of some sort. And that's what this basically is. The second rule they had, though, is that a homeowner or that agents would no longer be able to advertise buyer broker commissions on the multiple listing service. That's the second rule. So right now, the way it works is I go out and meet with you to list your home, Joey. You and I talk about what I'm going to do to sell your home. And I tell you, I'm going to charge you 2.5% or 3% for my fee. And then you and I have a discussion about whether or not you want to incentivize another buying broker. Right now, currently, most sellers do, and we usually offer them about the same, 2.5% or 3%, right? So for a total of 5 or 6%, we list the property, we go to the market, and I advertise on the multiple listing service 2.5% or 3% to any buying broker to incentivize them to want to go and show that home. So the buying agent, they know that if they bring a buyer to that house, their commission has already been negotiated and it's protected. And that's how the industry has worked for a long time. Well, this rule that they're giving us is saying we can no longer publish that commission to the multiple listing service. So the buying agent won't know. They can call an agent and say, hey, is your seller willing to pay a buyer broker commission? And either we've had that discussion or we haven't with the seller. But they're going to have to ask. What the DOJ is doing right now is that they're going in and saying, hey, we're going to go one step further. We want to make it so that a seller, not agents, that a seller is not allowed to make offers of compensation to a buying broker in any way of advertising. And if they do that, then it effectively, helps to enforce that rule that the National Association of Realtors came up with. But it makes it the rule of the land because it's now put that rule on the sellers themselves. Does that make sense?
It does, but do you think that's good for the industry? Do you think that's good for the market?
Well,
is that good for home sellers?
I mean, I've thought through that scenario a little bit. So imagine this for a second. Let's say that the National Association of Realtors rule that you cannot offer any buyer broker compensation on the multiple listing service, right?
Got it.
So I can't do it. I'm a realtor, can't do it, right? But all of a sudden, there's these little websites that pop up where sellers can just go online and offer buyer broker commission.
Facebook Marketplace.
On Facebook Marketplace,
Doesn't matter, yeah.
And offer it there. So now they're able to advertise a buyer broker commission because it's the seller.
Got it.
But no agent could do that. You see what I'm saying? So
yeah, it seems, yeah.
That's the challenge with it. So I think by DOJ going in and saying, hey, putting that burden on the seller, saying the seller will not be allowed to make offers of compensation in any form, any to advertising to a buying broker, that levels the playing field. Because right now I have to follow a rule starting in August that nobody else, if you're not a realtor, would have to follow. So that's where I think DOJ is trying to make this, fair business practices across the entire country.
I just wonder because it's going to be how they word it. Because I'm wondering if they say, okay, well, you can't advertise it, but if a buyer's agent walks up and says, hey, I've got these buyers, can the seller then, just like you said?
They can, and they've already said you can.
Okay, good.
So
I didn't know
my understanding, reading everything I've been reading on this, DOJ is saying they're not preventing a buyer broker from being paid by the seller.
Got it.
They're saying that you can't make offers of compensation through advertising.
Got it.
And so I think that it'll work out fine. In the commercial real estate space, we've been doing this for years. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've written offers on commercial properties where when I made the offer, there was no compensation being offered on any kind of advertising. I just negotiated the fee in the offer, and it wasn't a big deal.
Commercial real estate has that, whether it's right or not, in my mind, it has that higher level of professionalism involved. You know what I mean? It's less emotional. It's more business entity versus residential has more of that emotion. And the buyers, I mean, I would say that the average residential buyer is not as educated on real estate as the average commercial buyer, right?
100%, which is where this conversation is going full circle.
Yeah.
You have an industry that's getting dumbed down.
Yes.
The agents are becoming less and less educated.
Yeah.
And the consumer now is going to have the burden of actually being a little smarter. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
In order to negotiate a deal properly.
I agree.
And very challenging. This is, again, why we're pivoting so hard is that we know these rule changes are coming. We want to pivot from being a large real estate company to being more of a professional service-oriented company. And I think that by doing that, and I'm not saying it's the answer for all agencies. I'm saying for our agency, being true to who we are, that's what we're about. Just true consultative relationships with customers. And us trying to learn everything we can all the time to offer that to people.
I wonder how that's all going to shake out because it's getting implemented in August. So, I mean, have people preemptively started doing it where there is no buyer's compensation offered at all? I mean, are we starting, because isn't that the thought that we think is going to happen is more and more sellers going to be like, I'm not paying anybody anything.
There's been a few cases recently. I mean, we've even tried it. We've had sellers that have said, hey, we'd like to put our home to the market and not offer a buyer broker compensation. Within a week of not getting a lot of activity, they quickly pivot. Because the reason why is, I mean, do you want to price reduce, or do you want to just offer buyer broker compensation and see if that's your problem, right? And that's what most of them have elected to do. So the folks that have came out initially trying not to offer it, they actually reversed course and started offering it, and they sold. So I think that, but that's right now, because in August you won't have the option anyway.
Exactly.
It won't be advertised on the multiple listing service anymore, and so. We will still be having the discussions, though. I mean, every seller I sit down with, I'm going to explain to them that roughly 60 to 80% of all buyers are going to need some form of assistance to purchase the home, or they can't buy it. And so if a seller chooses not to offer compensation during that negotiation, which is in their right to do, they just simply couldn't work with that buyer. And so you would take a market of 100% of buyers and you would narrow it down to roughly 20 or 30% of buyers. Which always has a negative effect on price.
Well, rule number one in business is supply and demand. And what you just basically said is the seller is going to reduce their demand.
If they go that way.
Yeah, because, the 60, what'd you say? 60, 80% of demand, i.e. buyers, are not going to be in the market to buy their home now.
That's right.
So if demand is lower for the product that you're bringing supply, you're going to get a lower price. That's like the first thing, economics, the first lesson you learn.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
I think what's more likely to end up happening is that we'll list a property. We may or may not offer a buyer broker compensation in advance, but the discussion will have been memorialized. The seller will know that that's something that they need to be prepared for. Offers will come in, and depending on each offer and what the offer is, the seller will make a decision at that point how it's going to go.
And you could see it being property specific. There's just certain properties that the minute they hit the MLS, do you know what I mean? The minute the neighbor knows it's for sale, there's a bidding war. And then there's properties. I was thinking of an address I heard this morning. There's properties that, good luck getting anybody to come out here. Yeah. This is not going to be easy, man. We've got to financially incentivize, whether it's lower your price or offer something. And it's also, I think so much, it's so important with all these changes that I think the rise of the influencer real estate agent needs to go away. The real estate is way more than marketing and sales. There's so much legality. This is such a huge purchase. This is such a big deal. This is arguably the biggest purchase that most people ever make in their life.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Their home. You can't, don't try to cut corners.
No,
you know
I totally agree. And now that I'm personally pivoted back into sales, I'm back in it now.
Oh, you're back in it.
Oh yeah. Now I'm out there going on listing appointments all the time again.
Are people shocked that Josh is actually showing up now?
I don't know. I don't know how much they thought it one way or the other before, but going out there into the field on a regular basis again. First of all, I love it. I missed it. Now I'm doing it.
Right on.
But I recognize now, what experience does mean for the customer. Because, when people don't hire me today to sell their home, they hire me because of the 7,000 homes that I sold over the last 25 years.
Yeah.
And the experience from that, the problems I've had to learn to solve, the issues I've learned to avoid, and knowing how to just make things go smoothly. That's why they're hiring us.
Yeah. If you're going to go with a discount brokerage, you might as well just get toothpaste with lead in it. That's what I was thinking. I mean, you could say...
I don't know if I go that far.
Drink bottled water. What are you doing?
But here's making a smart decision with a real estate agent, though, I would say this, is that it's the difference between losing money on the sale of your home or actually making some profit on the sale of your home.
We all have horror stories, but I have some friends I remember a couple of years ago. I can't say any names, but they went with this discounted brokerage and they honestly lost like 8% on the house. It was just, it's, Do your math. Do your homework. You get what you pay for, guys. You're not going to get a Ferrari for a used Kia price. It's just not. You're not. And this stuff matters. It does.
Well, and I don't see companies as being discount or not. I mean, your fee is your fee. I don't really care about that. The question is, what's the service that you're receiving?
That's what I mean.
Yeah. And are you netting what you could have netted if you picked a good person, a good agent, a good, somebody with some experience? So I
think a reasonable person should see that, though, that. The discounted price the discount has to come from somewhere. Someone can't say, "Hey, I'm going to give you the Ferrari experience, right. but you're just going to pay the 10-year-old used Kia price tag." Like that should be a red flag.
Yep.
of like, no, you're not. I'm sorry. That's the beginning of scams.
Yep.
So if you think you don't need that, and that's, if that's okay, but I think the average person should realize the gravity of buying a home.
Oh yeah. I mean, what I say sometimes on this is that, hiring a good agent will cost a little bit, but hiring a bad agent will cost you a fortune.
I like it.
Yeah.
I'd say if you think education's expensive, right? This is how much is, was it? I already messed it up. I already messed up the quote. Man, I wish I would have paid for that education. I probably know how to finish the sentence. Well, hey, Josh, thanks. It's been, it's June 2024, getting ready for a summer. And like you said, inventories level out a little bit. So we'll see how this plays out in a month.
Sounds great. Looking forward to seeing it.
Thanks, Josh.
Thanks.
If you're enjoying the All Things Real Estate podcast, please feel free to subscribe, rate, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. That helps others find the show, and we really appreciate it. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next episode.